What happens when your lifeline is literally cut off in one of the most dangerous places on Earth? That's the terrifying reality behind Last Breath, now streaming on Peacock. A survival thriller based on a miraculous true story of a deep-sea diver, Chris Lemons. Today we're unpacking this film, separating fact from fiction, exploring real-life events, and uncovering hidden layers that make this story so unforgettable. Let's go ahead and dive deep. In September of 2012, commercial saturation diver Chris Lemons was working at 300 feet beneath the surface of the North Sea. He and two colleagues were inspecting oil rig infrastructure when disaster struck. The ship maintaining their position, the Topaz, suffered a failure in its dynamic positioning system. That might not sound dramatic, but in deep sea diving, your lifeline is tethered to the ship. It supplies your oxygen, heat, light, and communication. When the ship drifted, Lemons' umbilical was severed, leaving him alone in total darkness with no oxygen supply and no way to contact the surface. Incredibly, Lemons survived without a functional air supply for nearly 38 minutes. More than 3 times longer than anyone thought was possible. Doctors later speculated that the icy 4 degrees Celsius water and Lemons' own calmness may have slowed down his metabolism just enough to preserve what little oxygen was left in his system. It's not just survival, it's a medical anomaly. To understand why this story is so extraordinary, you have to know what saturation diving is. It's a high-risk profession where divers live in a pressurized chamber for days or weeks. This way, they can work deep underwater without having to decompress every time they surface, a process that could take hours. Saturation divers work in pairs or teams, and they're supported by dive supervisors and ROV. That stands for Remote Operated Vehicle Operators. It's all coordinated from the dive support vessel. Chris Lemons was doing bull runs, where the team descends in a diving bell, exits it at depth, and completes a task and then returns. Once his umbilical was cut, Lemons was essentially on his own, relying only on his backup tank, which had roughly 5 to 7 minutes of breathable air. It should have been fatal. The new Last Breath film isn't just a retelling, it's a dramatized thriller featuring Finn Cole as Lemons, Simu Liu as his fellow diver Yuasa, and Woody Harrelson as the veteran dive supervisor Duncan Alcock. The casting was an interesting choice. Liu, best known for Shang-Chi, brings unexpected warmth and urgency to his role. Harrelson, meanwhile, channels the controlled panic of a man responsible for his team's lives. They aren't just underwater technicians, they're friends, teammates, and in this case, unexpected heroes. The film goes beyond just ticking the boxes of a real story. It delves into the emotional stakes. The isolation of working underwater, the camaraderie of divers who live together in pressurized chambers for weeks, and the guilt of those who think they may have lost a man on their watch. The underwater cinematography is particularly impressive. Real divers and industry experts were brought on set to make the details as accurate as possible, from how helmets are sealed and how divers even move at depth. And yes, the actors trained in water tanks for weeks to really sell that realism. So let's talk about accuracy. While Last Breath sticks closely to the major beats of the true story, it does compress timelines and dramatize interactions. For example, the real Chris Lemons was actually unconscious when rescued, but in the film, he has more awareness for dramatic tension. Also, while Duncan Alcock was really the supervisor on duty and played a critical role in Lemons' survival, some of the film's dialogue and character arcs are fictionalized to add narrative shape. What's not exaggerated is the sheer horror of the moment. The ROV footage shown in the 2019 documentary, and particularly recreated here, captures the chilling silence of Lemons lying motionless on the ocean floor. When the bellman finally reaches him, you see the frantic effort to haul him back to the chamber and revive him. So how does the 2025 film compare to the 2019 documentary, also called Last Breath? Think of the documentary as a quiet, clinical recounting featuring real footage and interviews with the men involved. It's emotional but restrained. It lets the facts speak for themselves. The film, however, takes you inside the experience. It uses sound, pacing, and performance to make you feel the panic, the cold, and the silence. They work as companion pieces. If you're watching the film first, check out the documentary afterward and you'll realize just how much they got right. Fun fact, Chris Lemons himself actually consulted on both projects. He's since become a motivational speaker and still works in the diving industry. Last Breath is more than just a survival story. It's a tribute to teamwork, training, and something just short of a miracle. It asks a terrifying question. What would you do, trapped in total darkness, with no air or no one coming for you? The film might dramatize some moments, but the heart of the story, one man's impossible survival, remains intact. It's worth watching for the suspense, the performances, and for most of all, the respect it pays to a dangerous but vital profession. What did you think of Last Breath? Did the film do the real story justice? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and be sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into movies based on true events.